Bore da bawb. Fy enw yw Steve Rayner, Cadeirydd y Pwyllgor Cynllunio. Croeso i'r cyfarfod hwn o Bwyllgor Cynllunio Parc Cenedlaethol Bannau-Brycheiniog. Croeso i'r aelodau a swyddogion sy'n bresennol ac i aelodau cyhoedd sy'n edrych ar-lein. Good morning, everyone. My name's Steve Rayner, Chair of the Planning Committee. Welcome to this meeting of the Bannau-Brycheiniog National Park Planning Committee. Welcome to both members and officers present and to members of the public viewing online. This is the first time we've held one of these meetings in hybrid form, so we hope the technology will work for us. And just a couple of points around protocol. First of all, I'm going to introduce those people who are in the room because we can see who's on screen by their names, but just to run through who we have here in the room. So I'm going to go from my left. I have Gareth Jones, Director of Planning and Place for the National Park, Davina Powell, Head of Development Management, Fionn Bevan, who's one of the case officers who's going to be presenting to us this morning, Councillor Hugh Williams, Deputy Chair of the Committee, Councillor William Powell, Dr Liz Bickerton, Mr Gillian Stedman, Councillor Edwin Roderick, Monitoring Officer Sean O'Connor, and Danny French. And in the corner, working the technology, we have Gemma and Jane Pashley. Just in terms of protocol, I've got Gareth helping me keep an eye on hands and things going up on screen and in the room. So if people in the room want to come in, please do raise your hands, make yourselves known, and if I'm not spotting you, then please wave, and by all means jump in if necessary, and we'll try and keep an eye on those of you on the screen. What I'll do, I will try and introduce people or call on people by name, particularly those in the room, but particularly if I haven't done so, if those in the room could just say their name before they speak so it's clear to anybody watching who it is who's speaking, that would be much appreciated. So what else do I need to say by introduction? Also joining us this morning, we have Hugh Owens and Mark Davis from Monmouthshire County Council. They're going to be joining us to assist us with the first application that we're considering. So welcome, Hugh and Mark. I'll introduce you again when we get to that item. Just for those of us in the room, there are no planned fire alarms, but should the fire alarm sound, we need to leave this room by the usual exit and follow the usual fire protocol. We'll probably follow Danny wherever she sends us. Thank you very much. With all of that done, I think we're ready to move on to our agenda and item 1, apologies for absence. Danny, I believe we have apologies from Councillor Peter Baldwin.
We do, yes, and obviously Councillor Powell has advised that he will need to leave at 12.
Thank you very much. I believe everyone else is present. So we can move on to item 2, Chair's announcements. Just a couple of announcements to me. Welcome to Planning Officer Luke Woosnam, who joins us from Paris County Council. So welcome to the team, Luke. And congratulations to Daisy Van Straten, who joins the policy team from the Development Control Admin team, where she's been working for the past 8 years. So congratulations, Daisy, on moving to your new role. Moving on to enclosure 3, declarations of interest. We do have a number of declarations. So if I can just start with declarations in relation to our first application that we're going to be considering. Councillor Simon, would you like to just explain your declaration?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. I don't have a traditional or a pecuniary interest. What I do have is an interest in the agenda item 5.1, predetermination on the basis of information which has been sought, and after scrutinising, it became apparent that I had a conflict of interest on this application because I could not support the application on the basis of predetermination. I didn't have an open mind, I had a closed mind, and that was last week. I did notify the officers, and I will say that within my 3 minutes as a member of the public representing the community of this area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Simon. Councillor Edwin, declaration of interest in relation to the Sennybridge School application.
Voted out, Lilith. Yes, I have a declaration of interest in item 5.2, 25/24210 stroke full Sunnybridge School. I am the governor of the school governing body, and I'm also the ward councillor for that area as well. So,
Thank you, Councillor Edwin. And Dr. Liz, you have a declaration in respect of Riddlewound and I think Sunnybridge School as well.
Yes, so Sunnybridge School, just to be totally transparent, I put in a personal non-prejudicial declaration of interest, purely because I think it's well known that I was chair governors at Sunnybridge School. My son, and I stopped when my son left, that was in 2012, so it's a long time ago, but I just thought for transparency's sake that ought to be the case. For Rita Wernen, I'm declaring an interest because my son and their son are good mates, basically. So that's the reason why.
Thanks, Liz. And we have a general declaration of interest from all Powys Council members in relation to Sunnybridge School, which is obviously a Powys Council application. But with the exception of Dr. Liz, well, all of these are non-prejudicial. So are there any other declarations of interest that need to be made? And if we could just request once again, those of you who haven't completed the official form, if you could do so as soon as possible after the meeting. Thank you very much. So I think we can move on to enclosure 4, minutes of meetings. So item 1, minutes of the Planning Committee meeting on the 16th of December 2025. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look through those minutes. Thank you very much, Danny, for providing those for us. Could I have a proposer and a seconder for those minutes, please? I've got Councillor Edwin proposing, Councillor Hughes seconding. Are we just doing a show of hands for this, or do we need to do a formal vote, Danny? Show of hands? Okay, can I show of hands all those in favour of accepting the minutes? John, are you showing hand, or are you waiting to catch up with us?
I'm abstaining. I'm not sure if I was.
Yeah, so there were a few of you who weren't present who should be abstaining, so that's fine. So, and I think
Joining Professor Hunt, Chair.
Okay, so abstentions from Councillor William and Professor Hunt and Peter James, I believe, and Dr. Liz. I'm absent on the last one. So those of us who were present and eligible to vote, that's carried. Thank you. Next set of minutes for the planning site visit to Brecon Beacon Natural Water on the 9th of December. Once again, could I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Julian proposing and Edwin seconding. And again, show of hands from those who were present at that meeting. I think we've got a unanimous vote from those present. Thank you very much.
Can I just point out something?
Yeah, please, Handel.
Just a reference to Castell Carrig. It should be Castell Carrig Kennan in the minutes.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll note that.
Okay.
Thank you, Handel. And then item 3, the minutes of the planning site visit to Dyffryn Mawr on the 9th of December 2025. Again, could I have a proposer and a seconder for those, please? Dr. Liz proposing and Councillor Hughes seconding. And a show of hands from those who were present, please. So I think that one's carried. Thank you very much for that one. And finally, the minutes of the planning site visit to the land of the former community centre in Hay on Wye on the 9th of December 2025. Could I have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Edwin proposing, Councillor Hughes seconding. Show of hands again for that one. 5 of us there, 6 of us there. Great, so that one also carried. Thank you very much. That's those simple formalities out of the way, which brings us on to the first of our substantive items for consideration today. Application 24/22777/full Dyffryn Mawr. So at this point, I'm going to invite to join us the public speakers who will be speaking to us very shortly. Once we've got them into the room. I think they're all joined, Gareth. Okay, it looks like everybody has joined who needs to. So welcome to those of you who are going to be speaking as members of the public to us. I'm going to hand over to the case officer, Mrs. Fionn Bevan, who's going to give us a presentation to run through this application for us. Thank you, Fionn.
What is our members? So this application is a resubmission of the application at Deffy Mawr for a seasonal wedding venue between April and October with a siting of an associated teepee, toilet block, foul drainage, landscaping, and retention of associated car parking and a gazebo. So this is a resubmission from the previously refused application, which raised concerns which have now been addressed. It is presented to members today as a calling request from Councillor Simon Howard. So the application site relates to part of the property known as Deffy Mawr Lower Common in Gilwen, which consists of a small estate. The estate can be broken down into several areas, including agricultural fields, woodlands, water bodies, and the residential churches at the centre of the site where Deffy Mawr Country House sits. This property is an unlisted farmhouse reflecting traditional character form with 2 stories, dual gable and rectangular footprint, and materials comprised of stone walls, tiled roofing, and timber fenestration. A walled parcel of land can be accessed to the south-east of a house dwelling, and this, together with an auxiliary section of the southern adjacent fields, is the development area for this application. So here's the site layout. So as you can see, the planning application proposes the siting of a seasonal wedding teepee, a wedding venue with the associated teepee, toilet block, foul drainage, landscape, and retention of associated car parking and gazebo. There's quite a lot on this slide as a plan, but you should be able to see where the teepees are going on site and the toilet block, which is within an existing building. But I'll show you closer. So the teepees. It is proposed to site a teepee structure within the walled garden enclosure to the east of the Deffy Mawr house. The teepee will be an oiled cotton canvas structure in a muted soft brown colour supported on timber framing and posts. It will be fixed to a timber decking platform supported on a pad foundation subframe to minimise ground disturbance. The front entrance will be accommodated 2 teepees with a total width of approximately 19 metres. The rest of the structure will comprise of a series of 3 approximately 10-metre diameter teepees. The total length of the structure will be approximately 32.5 metres. The maximum height will be approximately 7.4 metres, with most of the massing being below approximately 2.7 metres due to its shape. A separate catering teepee will be located to the east end of the walled garden, approximately 10 metres in diameter. The teepee will be fixed in place and remain in situ for the duration of the wedding season. That would be from the 1st of April to the 31st of October. Out of season, it will be dismantled and sorted into the old stable office building to the north of the walled garden. Timber decking will remain in situ all year round. Chairs, tables, which are provided as part of the wedding package, will be stored also in the stable building, stable office building. Here's a further slide showing a cross section of the teepee and that permanent floor base I was talking about. And there's some images there of similar how it would be constructed. So here's a slide showing the toilets. So they will be permanent WC facilities and they'll be located inside the existing store barn building adjoining the stone barn. These will be accessed by the entrance doors to the west elevation and will provide 3 toilets and 3 wash hand basins for ladies, 1 toilet and 3 urinals and 3 hand basins for gents, and 1 toilet and one hand basin for less able and mobile users. All foul waste will be directed to a new package treatment plant to the north of a walled garden and treated effluent will be pumped to the drainage field located in the field to the south of the walled garden. Here's a quick slide just showing the location of where the teepees will be positioned with the walled garden. For those of you who went on site, you will be familiar with this. Just to point out at this point, although it's a walled garden, it's not listed. So just so that you're aware of that. So it's proposed to increase the number of weddings from 9 to 25 to take place between 1st of April and 31st of October over a period of 28 weeks. The maximum number of guests at each wedding will be limited to a total of 80, with approximately 30 to 40 attending from the afternoon and 40 to 50 attending for the evening only.
Sorry,
Sorry to interrupt.
Professor John, you have your hand up.
We're no longer seeing the slides on screen.
Okay, thank you for raising that. Is that the same for everybody?
I'm seeing them. Continue.
I've got them on screen on my
And I've got them as well.
Oh, do you?
So have I.
Oh,
So have I.
okay. Sorry, I thought it was general.
No, it's okay. So it's just John that's affected.
All right, I've got them now. There's something to click. There was a PowerPoint I had to click.
Okay, thanks, John. Sorry, apologies, Fionn. Please, please continue.
So music will be managed directly by the owner of the venue to ensure noise levels are controlled within the limits. There will be no music played after 11 p.m. Acoustic musicians may perform during the wedding ceremony or evening meal, evening party. Amplified music may be played during the evening only and only under strict control of the owner of the site and in accordance with the ongoing monitoring arrangements agreed. Daytime guests will normally arrive between the hours of 12 and 3. Evening guests will normally arrive about 7 o'clock in the evening and the venue will be closed by midnight. The bar will be located inside the main teepee structure and managed by the owner as part of the wedding package. Caterers will be privately hired for each wedding and selected from the list of local caterers and businesses. So here's a photo of where the proposed car parking area will be. So as you can see, there's the walled garden. So the teepee will be this side of a walled garden, if you can see my cursor, and then this is the car park here. So this application is considered against the adopted policies of the Brecon Beacons National Park Planning Local Development Plan. In making the recommendations of this application, it has been taken into consideration the relevant policies of a development plan, legislation and comments made by consultees and other interested parties. There have been a number of objections to the proposal, with one of the main issues being raised is the impact of the development on the local community in terms of noise and traffic issues. The summary of objections received are as follows. Specific traffic concerns were safety in relation to cyclists, dog walkers, children on the lanes, noise from traffic movements, road infrastructure not good enough, air pollution from the traffic. Specific local community impact includes use of fireworks and the impact this has on neighbouring residents and animals, and there's also reference to light pollution from outside lights. One objection also refers to consideration of local residents of wildlife. Concerns will be raised in relation to the guests at each event, whether it would be used as an Airbnb accommodation. References are made to drainage solutions, and this is a cause of health and safety concerns. Comments were also made in relation to the impact of a development in the walled garden and its setting, along with the design of the development and impact this would have on the surrounding national park landscape. Comments were also received in support of the venture on site. I would also like to point out at this point that the application does not include the house. So the house itself is not included within the red line and is not considered as part of this application. Furthermore, where located outside a settlement, such proposal must demonstrate proposals necessary to support community sustainability in that location, that the facility will be operationally sustainable into the future, and there would be no unacceptable detrimental effect on the amenity and privacy of existing dwellings, nearby properties or the public. A community impact assessment was submitted during the course of the application, And following an assessment of the report, it's acknowledged that the assessment provides a clear rationale for how the proposal supports local economic and social well-being, including employment generation and partnership with local suppliers and accommodation providers. It is considered that based on the submitted information and subject to the appropriate conditions controlling aspects of the ongoing management, the proposal may be capable of operating sustainably and does not appear likely to result in significant adverse impact on local community and community well-being. There are a number of constraints on site, and these are being addressed by consultees. In relation to impact on the landscape, an LVIA was submitted with the application, and based on its conclusions, which is outlined within the report, there are no concerns raised in relation to the impact on the landscape. Regarding heritage, given the unlisted status of the building and the surrounding landscape, no consultation was undertaken with the heritage officer, and is considered that the proposed development, along with the existing external materials, are appropriate to its setting. In terms of ecology, the site is in the open countryside. It's surrounded by agricultural land with a mixture of pasture and arbour uses. The hedgerow network is gappy, but there are nearby areas of woodland. The River Usk of special scientific interest and special area conservation flows west, approximately 300 metres to the northeast of the site. Information was submitted and no objection was raised, and subject to conditions, details of which are outlined within the report. Regarding the River Sack.
Sorry, Fionn. John, you have your hand up again.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to interrupt Fionn's flow. I thought the summary of objections had be finished, and I was waiting for the comments on the regionally important geological site aspect, and I wonder if that was coming.
Okay, I'll note that you have your hand up and you want to ask a question when that point arises. If we could perhaps let Fionn carry on through the presentation until such. If there's any technical issues that we need to raise partway through, then by all means put your hand up again. Apologies, Fionn.
That's okay, that's fine. Where was it? Yeah, so impact on the River Sack. So they're proposing to install a new package treatment plant and a drained field to treat foul drainage flow at the site. The applicants provided a copy of the environmental permit for the site that was issued by NRW in July 2025, and a full HRA screening and appropriate assessment has been undertaken by NRW, and they have responded in their consultation, confirming they agree with our conclusions that there are no adverse impact on the integrity of the River Usk special area conservation of the Usk River. In terms of highway impact, the proposal is supported by a transport statement. The existing means of access, namely the private lane, extends from an unclassified road and will be utilised on two sections of the highway, on two sections of the highways. Both public highway sections include space to allow for passing, including goods vehicles. There's no record of highway incidents in the nearby area, and there are no highway safety concerns. Regarding trip generation, most events are assumed to be during the weekend and outside the peak AM to PM times. Appropriate tip rate information computer systems as TRIX data has been provided for the wedding venues of similar nature of the application site from which it is it shows the worst case scenario, and would result in 81 vehicle trips throughout the day, weighing towards the evening. However, most events will be below the number due to the car sharing use of a proposed minibus. The site provides separate areas for guests and service vehicles, with approximately 45 spaces dedicated to guests and space to manoeuvre. So there's no concerns raised in relation to parking. Regarding the impact on trees, a tree officer was consulted, no concerns raised, subject to conditions. In terms of noise, it is noted that numerous third-party representations were submitted and concerns raised regarding the level of traffic noise and part of development would disrupt existing level of residential amenity. They also concerned about the level of noise from amplified music on site during events. The environmental health officers confirmed that they have dealt with issues at the site due to previous complaints, and whilst they have not objected to the scheme on noise grounds, they have recommended planning conditions to minimise noise impacts on nearby residents. A traffic noise management measures has also been submitted. The information provided is an effort to try and minimise noise impact on dwellings along Lower Common Access Lane. This includes the use of the private minibus owned by the venue, which will be to transport guests to and from Dyffryn Mawr. On the day event, signage will be placed along the access lane leading to Dyffryn Mawr at the main entrance exit to the private driveway to display speed limits of 10 miles per hour and no in-vehicle music to be played. Temporary speed ramps will be installed along the private driveway and, if required, in the stretch of lane leading down to the entrance. Consultation response was received from Monmouthshire County Council Environmental Health Department, raising no objection to proposed subject conditions. So on to RIGS, which is the regionally important geodiversity site. So an initial objection was received on the scheme, but further information and clarification was submitted by the agent, and further comments were received with no objection, subject to condition. And that's outlined in the report. So, yes, so I'll just show you some more pictures for those who weren't on site. So there's the building of where the toilet will be. There's the gazebo, which is retrospective and has been constructed. There's a picture again of the lawn area inside that walled garden where it will be constructed. So that's fine. Yeah, thank you very much. So just as a recommendation, so I'd just like to point out that we are proposing to add a new condition that's not included on the report. I will briefly, it's basically to remove permitted developments on the site that's within the red line boundary. So the site will be limited to 80 guests and what they have, if agreed and approved, planning permission for what they are having and given, and they cannot do any further weddings under permitted development on that site. So we will discuss the wording and hope with the chair and vice chair and the director. But so based on that, the recommendation is, given the presentation report, it is recommended to delegate powers to the Director of Planning and Place to grant planning permission subject to planning conditions set out in the report, and the inclusion of an additional condition which withdraws permitted development rights. This to be agreed with Director of Planning and Place and the Chair and Deputy Chair of the Planning Committee. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Ffion, for that comprehensive presentation and your report. So we'll just now move to an opportunity for members to ask questions for clarity around the facts surrounding the case. So just a reminder, we're not entering debate and discussion about the merits of the case at this point. I'm going to bring in John Hunt first because we know he already wants to ask a question about the RIGS points. John, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Questions have been partly answered, but I do want to comment that the landform that the development is on is a really important landform that's part of a fluvio-glacial land system that is internationally significant in terms of delimiting the extent of late Devonian ice sheets 18,000 years ago. I don't know to what extent the RIGS objections were implying there might be detriment to the landform itself, so I would appreciate clarification on whether there was any detriment to the landform by excavation in terms of car parking, perhaps.
Fiona, are you able to come back on that?
Yeah, so we had an extensive response from the South Wales RIGS group. They had concerns regarding the development on the previous application. The agent and the applicants have undertaken work to ensure that those address the concerns raised by RIGS. And there's quite a comprehensive response from RIGS identifying what they've looked at. The main issues of concern was the car parking area and how they were going to manage the surfacing. And the other one was to do with the drainage and the piping and how that was going to work. But based on the information provided by RIGS, these have all been addressed and they recommended some conditions which I've added to the bottom of the report. So I hope that clarifies.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is that helpful, John?
Thank you, it is, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I have Dr. Liz, Councillor Edwin, and Councillor William and Julian after that. So Liz.
So just for those watching at home, it's Liz Bickerton speaking. Theon, thank you for that. I just wondered if you could go to the site location plan and just for clarity, just for us to understand where the public road finishes and where the private road begins. And because that's quite a long, that's a very long road going into the site. So do we have any indication, you know, where the public and the private boundary is between those two?
Maybe I could refer to Mark from
Oh yes, sorry.
Monmouthshire Highways to, it's okay, to come in there if that's possible. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, council members. The extent of the public highway terminates at the lodge.
Okay, which is that building slightly?
You're able to float your cursor
Yes.
around
It's
that.
it's approximately 100 metres from the junction with Lower Common Road, I believe.
Okay, so that's the public highway to that point, and there's no public right of way beyond there because
No, that is a private lane, and I don't believe there's any public right of way or public footpaths at all in the area either.
Clarification of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Liz. Councillor Edwin.
Okay, it's just been answered. That's exactly what I was looking at.
Great minds, Edwin. Great minds.
Thank you. Councillor William.
Jock Cadeirydd, William Powell speaking. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions that were provoked by Fion's really comprehensive presentation. One of those points is if you could unpack a little the significance of the withdrawal of permitted development rights, because reference was made to the house not being included in the application. I was keen to understand whether the house is even though it's not in the application, has the capacity with this latest development about permitted development to actually offer additional accommodation and could be allocated by the owners or operators of this facility to add capacity to the proposed 80 to make that a larger number. Also, just to check the enforceability and possibility of our conditioning issues around the transport plan for the arrivals and departures of guests, because I am familiar with the wider area. It is a significantly congested road certainly at some points, and I don't think it's confined to the sort of core commuting hours, because I think that's the whole work pattern has changed somewhat currently. So I'd just like to understand the enforceability on those points, but also more importantly to understand better the news that you shared with us this morning about the additional condition that you're proposing. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll treat the condition first. So yes, so the house is not within the red line boundary as I explained, and yes, we're not considering that anything that's happening in the house under this particular application. Now there might be something we might have to look into separately, but in terms of this particular application we're looking at today, it's just the grounds which is within the red line. Now what wedding venues can do is have temporary change of use. So they can apply for 28 days. The campsites are similar, like they can pop up and have 28 events or 28 days where they can have their TPs, tents, whatever, and have wedding venues and events. So what we want to try and do with that condition is if the permission is agreed today, they have their as stated, 80 guests and 25 weddings. What we want to avoid is they can use their permitted development rights as additional to what they would have permission for. So that would mean they could potentially have 25 weddings up to 80 guests, but then they could also have up to 28 days of unlimited guests and not controlled, because because that's what they could do under permitted development. So that's why we can and put this additional condition on to remove that temporary permission allowance, and this is just for the grounds now. So this is only related to the TP and the toilets and the car park, and that's related to the site. So that's where that's coming from, and I think we add that to the. We can agree a wording.
Thank you, Fiona. Chair, if I could just ask a supplementary. What is the mechanism for enforcing against the breaching of the removal of permitted development rights, i.e. ignoring that condition? Is that something that would fall to our enforcement team, or is it a Monmouthshire County Council function?
It would be our enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Fiona, can I just come back on that point as well? So just to be quite clear, whilst we might, with this additional condition, remove permitted development within the red line of the site.
Yeah.
If I'm right, that wouldn't prevent the applicants from holding on another piece of ground right next to the house other weddings for 28 days of the year.
No.
So it's controlling what will happen within that
Red
TP
line.
and the car park and the gazebo,
Yes.
but not necessarily the venue as a whole. So they could potentially still be holding large weddings using other aspects, using other areas. Just so we're clear on kind of what we're
and bear in mind that they can do this PD today now if they wanted to. So at least with this permission, they are actually controlling it. So they're controlling the highways, we're putting measures in place that control the noise and all that kind of stuff. So it's making it more of a controlled venue by doing that. We can't, they could carry on doing this under the 28 permitted development if they wanted to, but by doing this, it prevents them from doing that.
Thank you very much for unpacking.
Did you want a supplementary on that?
No, not on that, but the issue around stewarding and just monitoring of the transport plan that they've submitted. That was my other question. Or is this lurching into the main debate, which I don't intend to? Would
you mind repeating your question?
Absolutely. It was just in relation to the transport plan and how that is enforced or regulated by either this authority or the Highways Authority.
So the transport plan would be again a condition on the application, and it'd be down to our enforcement team again to manage that. But obviously there could be other complaints in relation to that. They might go to Monmouthshire Highways, but it would be down to us to enforce the transport plan as part of the condition.
Okay, I'm grateful. Thank you.
I've got Julian next, and then I've got Hugh, John, and Peter James.
Okay, I'm Julian Steadman. I think a lot of what I was going to ask has been covered to some extent, but just first of all, I noted that some of this is a retrospective application. And I suppose my question is, if we were to refuse the application, how much of what is currently being exercised on the site could continue, and how much would it be affected if we decided that we were not going to pursue that retrospective element and refuse the application? The second thing is, I like the idea of minibuses. I think, a great way of bringing people in from outlying parts. I just question whether within the transport statement or the transport plan, which is the element of the condition, I wonder whether minibuses and that form of transport is something that we can enforce and ensure that it happens, or is it just a bit of wishful thinking?
I've just thought about minibus because I remember now. So the minibus is part of the transport statement, and it's again it's part of it, so it's enforceable for us. So they can do it, they don't have to do it, but it's there if they want to do it. I don't think we can enforce it. I think it's like a service that's available for them. It's and I presume that part of that and part and parcel of that is they would, as their wedding guests and the package would provide that option of the minibus if they so wish to use it. So can you remind me what was the beginning of your first point again?
The first question was part of the application's retrospective.
Oh yes, yeah.
And if we were to determine this application negatively, what could the applicant, could they continue to do what they are currently doing, or would it affect their operation?
So the retrospective element of the application is the gazebo, which we saw when we went on site. So that would, well, we'd enforce against, if we didn't approve that today, then we would have to enforce against that and decide what we would do with it, basically. But in terms of the development, operational development, they could still carry on with their permitted 28 days weddings, and it wouldn't be controlled.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Julian. Councillor Hugh.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Again, this is a point of clarification, really. There is a specific mention of fireworks in the paperwork. Is there a history of such use? Because, I mean, it's unusual to have fireworks mentioned in applications.
I think we do tend to see some fireworks on wedding events in some venues, especially possibly in the countryside venues. So there is a condition to say no fireworks, because fireworks, if you have it every Saturday night, is, in all fairness, is not great for residential communities. So it is specifically restricting the fireworks on Saturday.
Okay, thank you. John Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to prematurely steer into the transport plan, but I know the road network pretty well from Glengroiny through to the Corn Exchange and from my caving years. And on the site visit, getting to the site, I was acutely aware of how narrow the roads were. And I'm aware of the Glengroiny through road and how much it's used, for example, when Crickhowell Bridge is out. And I wanted assurance that there was not a sufficient concern that this would provide loading of that route, which is a very popular through route. That is a concern that we have assurance that it's not going to imperil that through, because one car on that through route can really slow down the through route a lot. That was one concern, and particularly given its flood prone nature. Now, I know you might say that most of the weddings are going to be out of winter season, but we know increasingly with climate change that flooding is no longer limited to the winter, so that floodplain can frequently close the road that we're talking about accessing there. So I'd like assurance on that. And the final point out with the transport, but tiring into fireworks. A lot of weddings, you say correctly, have fireworks. A lot also do balloons. And I would very much like to see a stipulation that there should be an anti-balloon release plan incorporated in the wedding proposal, because too often you get leakage of plastic balloons into the environment, which can do a lot of damage to farm stock and wildlife. Thank you.
Do you want to pick that up, or do we bring Mark in? Could we bring Mark in on that highways question, please, Mark?
Yes, Chair. It's a very open question to make reference to Glengroiny. The site is located to the north of Gilwern with numerous points of access. There is only 80 vehicles anticipated during the day arriving and departing, so 40 in one direction, 40 in the other. I don't think that is an unreasonable level of traffic if you're considering the wider highway network in terms of distribution. So I don't think we'll have any negative impact whatsoever. Does that help?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear your view. I can't argue with your view. I have my concern about the roads there. So
if you're specifically referring to Glengroiny Bridge, yes, it is flood prone. It is historically narrow road. But how many vehicles from this destination will travel on that route? Probably the minibus that they're proposing from the Bluebell Inn may well travel that route. If inclement weather, it will have to take a detour. So I think the impact of the development on the wider network, not just the local network, is negligible if insignificant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, John.
Welcome.
James.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Fionn, for the presentation. It's just an observation, really, on being that it's an open TP. Is there any heating provision, e.g., gas fire blow heaters, or an open fire pit? I'm just concerned if there is sort of gas heat cylinders, have they got a secured area to store those?
Is that anything we have information about?
That's not really specified and wouldn't need to be specified as part of the planning application. So I can't answer if it's heated. I presume it's heated, but it's something they don't need to provide as part of the planning application.
Okay.
Just looking around for other hands. Liz, is that your hand again?
Yes, Elizabeth again. Fionn, I just wonder, you mentioned this is for complication, community impact assessment, the economic aspect of that. Were the number of jobs, extra jobs, quantified, or do you have any quantifiable information around that economic development strategy?
Quick look.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so it does say, I'm just looking at the impact assessment now on screen. Basically, it says the use of the site as a seasonal wedding venue will generate additional 2 full-time and 3 part-time jobs employing local people to carry out groundworks and property maintenance and the general coordination and administration of booking suppliers, marketing and wedding planning. The overall combined impact of proposed use will therefore sustain local business and employment throughout the year, which in turn will help build long-term resilient partnership that will strengthen and sustain the local economy by generating wealth, support, local services and facilities, and overall contribute towards a more prosperous Wales. That's what's in the...
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fionn. I was just wondering whether Hugh Owens from Environment and Health would like to come in and make any comment about the fireworks question that we had earlier. Any general comments about the kind of history and thinking around that one?
Thank you, Chair, and hello, committee members. Hugh, Principal, EHO Monmouthshire Council. Yeah, I can see that it is proposed to be a condition that there be no fireworks on site. And again, as Fionn mentioned, we would support that. A wedding venue in a rural area, if we were setting fireworks off during the evening hours, potentially that's got could cause significant disturbance. So regarding complaints, fireworks or complaints of noise on fireworks, we did have complaints last year, I believe, from the setting off of fireworks, but I don't believe that was connected with a wedding at the venue, but more to do with guests staying at the house itself. So yeah, basically agree with a proposed condition that no fireworks on site. Hope that helps, Chair.
Thank you very much. Just looking around for any other hands in the room or on screen. I think just one question from me, Fionn. I'm conscious, connected with the recommendation, there are a lot of conditions in here. Can you comment on how confident we are as an authority that we can actually enforce those? And I guess associated with that is, to what extent are we confident that the applicant will put in place all the provisions that they've said they will do around things like speed bumps and so forth? My understanding is that the applicants don't live on site. The house is also rented out. So do we have any kind of, what assurance do we have that actually these conditions are clearly as written, they are in theory enforceable? But do you have any comment on that? I realise that's a difficult question perhaps to answer. Davina, Davina, are you going to come in on
I
that
can
one?
take that, yeah. So obviously there's a series of tests that a planning condition would need to meet, one of which is enforceability. And then when you look at the planning condition circular, you go to paragraph 3.23, it just says, just because a condition is inconvenient to monitor does not mean it is unenforceable. So this inconvenience of enforcing isn't really a factor in terms of considering whether something is enforceable or not. So I would perhaps say you set aside the convenience of it and just look at it flatly as, is this condition enforceable? Yes, no. Does that help? I'm
going to William, who just put his hand up.
Chair, just to develop your point, would it be inappropriate to take into account the workload, the scale, and the caseload of our enforcement team and its current? Would that be inappropriate? Because the issue of convenience.
Davina or Gareth, would you like to comment on that one?
I'll come in, Chair. Gareth Jones, Director of Planning and Place. So it's the role of the local planning authority is planning enforcement. So I would say the resource issues don't come into it. We prioritise our enforcement and we would investigate any complaints or potential breaches of planning conditions. So it's our job to enforce.
Okay. Thank you for that reassurance.
So I think just to summarise that, the assumption is that the authority will enforce conditions that are in place, or we make that assumption.
Appreciate
in our judgment.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm not seeing any other hands, so I think now is the time to move to hear from our public speakers to give us their perspective on the on this application. So just a reminder to the public speakers, there is a strict time limit of 3 minutes for you each, and we will be a little bit ruthless and cut you off. So just be mindful of that, please, and apologies in advance if we do rudely cut you off. It's just to ensure that everybody has that fair chance. So I believe we're turning first to Mr. Stephen Edwards. Do we have Stephen?
No, that's read out by-
That's being read out by Sean, our monitoring officer. Sean.
Thank you, Chair. So this is Board of Morning. Sean Connor reading out statement with Stephen Edwards, who's against the application. We lived at Dufferin Mount Lodge between 1998 and 2024, having renovated the property, which was in derelict condition. During that time, Dufferin Mount has always been a residential property, having 3 separate owners, all of whom have been good neighbours. The traffic at this time was minimal and consistent with a residential property. However, this changed significantly when Mrs. Fry commenced a business venture at Dufferin Mount. The development of an Airbnb and a wedding venue resulted in a large increase in traffic, including HGVs accessing the property along the narrow lane, which is unsuitable for the increased volume of traffic, it being a single track road with no passing places. All this traffic passed within a metre of our home and severely impacted on our ability to enjoy our house and garden. In addition to this increased traffic, we have had issues with guests from Dufferin Mount scaling our boundary walls due to the frequently malfunctioning electric gates. The wedding venue has brought further issues of antisocial behaviour, with intoxicated guests being abusive and threatening to myself. Prior to the commencement of these businesses, we have never had any issues at our home. It has been stated that we were consulting about these developments and had no objections, but this is untrue. It has also been stated that the changes at Dufferin Mount were for friends and family to visit on an occasional basis. However, from the outset, we have experienced large groups of people accessing the property in vehicles and on foot. Having used the lane for 26 years, it has always been our view that it is unwholly suitable for this increased volume of traffic. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sean. Now turn to Helen Trotman. Helen, welcome.
Hi.
One moment.
Hi, thank you.
When you're ready, Helen, please.
Okay, thank you. The reading of the planning officer's report and applicants' requested reports are fine reading. However, the reality of being a neighbour to Dufferin Mount Estate is quite different. We strongly object to this application. Firstly, the claim in the applicant's design and access statement is incorrect. There is not good vehicular access to Dufferin Mount House. Lower Common Lane is little more than a single track, suitable for only one car at a time. It has no pavements. It is in poor state of repair. It has no passing places, several concealed driveways lead straight onto the lane and no street lighting. This is the only access to the proposed permanent wedding venue. The size of the lane is simply not an issue the applicant can remedy. In the hours before one of the previous weddings, a local resident using CCTV footage counted over 71 cars using the lane. The week before, there were 75 vehicles. Speeding guests, taxi transport, Dyffryn Mawr employee vans, mobile food and drink trucks. There has been no adequate assessment of traffic numbers or noise before, during or after weddings by Highways. So to read on the website hitch.com that the applicant is advertising wedding packages for 200 guests fills us with horror. Note double the numbers being asked for in this application. Due to its historical peacefulness, the lane has been designated a quiet lane. It is a haven for dog walkers, horse riders and families to enjoy the countryside, an important network of public open space and recreation facilities. I note that its quiet lane status has not been discussed by either Monmouthshire Highways or the planning officer in their reports. I would also like to stress the fact that this application is contrary to the Gilwan Local Development Plan. The plan states this track is not suitable to take the impact of additional traffic. Previous planning applications have been rejected, citing this as setting a precedent. Traffic would also increase at Kenwood Road and Timor Lane, the main routes into Lower Common. Both these routes are adjacent to the local primary school, which has no car park. At school times, it is already extremely difficult to access Kenilworth Road, with limited room for parking causing very poor visibility. Where pavements exist, they're in extremely poor state of repair. Furthermore, with the reduction of the Gilwan Viaduct down to one lane with weight restrictions, these routes are becoming significantly more congested. The applicant's online wedding brochure clearly shows that the house itself is part of a commercial wedding package and has been for over 3 years. No community consultation has ever taken place by the applicant on any of these matters, and the antisocial behaviour we've endured whilst the house runs as a holiday let for 16 people for the last 7 years without planning permission has severely impacted our community. Let's be realistic. The applicant cannot force guests to use her proposed minibus, nor can she police her guests from making any noise as they leave. She has failed to prevent increased traffic numbers and to prevent noise into the early hours, including fireworks, for the past 3 years. Why should we believe this will change? The cumulative impact on the community has been significant.
Thank you very much, Helen. Apologies for cutting you off there. Hopefully you managed to get across the key points that you wanted to. Thank you very much. If we could turn now to Julianne Aylett, and I think again we have a statement to be read out by Sean, our monitoring officer. Please, Sean.
Thank you, Chair. My objections to the planning application are as follows. As of January 1926, the viaduct in Gilwan, which forms part of the A4077, was reduced to one lane. Traffic lights are put in place and the weight limit reduced to 3 tonnes. The A4077 is the main artery running through the village from Trecaultach to Benny. The restrictions are meant to divert the traffic into the lower common area of Gilwan, within the Timor Road and residential roads such as Fairholme, Kymelden and Kenilworth under increased pressure. At present, there is no short or long-term solution in sight for the repair reconstruction of the viaduct, and inviting even more traffic onto the lower common area to visit Dyffryn Mawr is simply ludicrous. In addition to the diverted traffic, residents of Lower Common are already facing daily issues caused by traffic associated with Gilwan Primary School. The school and local residents are currently working with MCC to try and find a long-term solution, but the simple fact is that the roads in the Lower Common area were simply not built to accommodate the amount of traffic that they are now being asked to sustain. The roads are in a very poor state of repair, and increased event traffic to Dyffryn Mawr will only add to this problem. It is worth noting that the road known as Kenilworth, which leads directly to Dyffryn Mawr, is regarded by MCC as a very minor road, not worthy of resurfacing or gritting. Yet, if the planning committee grants the application, dozens of vehicles will potentially travel back and forth along the residential road each time an event is held at Dyffryn Mawr. Poor access to the property, Kenwood and any subsequent narrow road approaching Dyffryn Mawr are not suitable for delivery vehicles or an increase in traffic of any sort. The road becomes a single track lane used by walkers, runners and horse riders, cyclists and local families with small children. There is nowhere to pass if you happen to meet an oncoming vehicle, and it's supposed to be designated quiet lane. Unfortunately, I witness all too often traffic travelling at an inappropriate speed to and from Dyffryn Mawr, and the fabric of the lane itself will not withstand an increase in traffic. I understand it's been suggested that wedding guests will be bused into Dyffryn Mawr. Again, the access roads are not suitable for buses, even minibuses. And where exactly are the cars going to be parked for these guests to be bused from? Parking is already an issue all around the village, as our local councillors will confirm. Also, if guests are going to be bused to the venue, why does the planning application ask permission for a car park to hold 45 cars? In reality, I suspect even more vehicles will be trying to access the site, as online adverts for Dyfed Mawr suggest that 200 guests could be accommodated at each wedding event. Having these additional vehicles using the lanes around Dyfed Mawr would be a huge impact. Despite the regulations put in place regarding the volume of music that can be played during a function at Dyfed Mawr, noise coming from the property in the middle of a rural village is really not acceptable. Many residents regularly use the Noise Act to report loud music, and on one occasion last year, fireworks were let off from property at 23:50. I've been told that this was done by a private party staying there rather than a wedding party. But who is going to regulate the noise if the new planning application is passed? At the moment, the noise seems to be restricted to weekend weddings, but this may not be the case in the future. Events at Dyfed Mawr are supposed to finish at 11 p.m. Even if this rule is adhered to, it means that between 11 o'clock and midnight, guests and staff are leaving the venue, and the increased traffic of time makes a significant impact in the usual rural silence. There is more, Chair, but we're out of time.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you very much, Julianne, for submitting that comment for us. Next speaker is Councillor Simon Howarth. Simon.
Thank you, Chair. I will just put my mic on and then I will go back to my statement. Good morning, members, and thank you for having the site meeting and listening to concerns of residents. I give my apologies to you this morning for not being part of the committee for this application. But it's been brought to my attention once scrutinising the documents that today's meeting and the application for 80 persons and parking and toilet facilities didn't seem to be correct with the information I had been forwarded. After investigations of that information, it became apparent that what you had before you this morning was not what was being advertised. This is just not a yearly venue for 80 persons and parking. It advertises for several years now, I think up to 2029, in advance on its own public website and on other websites for weddings up to 200 guests. And I believe the information within that pack today is not correct that you have. And also it includes the curtilage of the property, Dyfed Mawr House. Checking the correspondence the last few days, it's been apparent that I had to notify the authority, which I did. On this occasion, I notified them that the information that I had wasn't correct, so I have decided that I would withdraw and speak as a member of the public, which I'm doing at this time. During being a public servant, whilst honesty and integrity plays a major part, I have four main concerns of this application, and they have all been raised. I have a traffic concern and the movements of the traffic up and down the quiet lane. I do have major concerns with the pack that you have before you today of the toilet facilities. Even if it's for 80 guests, we saw one drawing. We've seen nothing to show the movement of traffic from Dyfed Mawr House through the courtyard, past the toilet block to its parking facility. And bear in mind, members, that them vehicles will be moving in and out as guests leave the venue at certain times. They will not all leave at the same time. I've seen no safety aspects of that toilet block. The toilet block photo you saw this morning was of the rear of the toilet block, and it was really obscured. The parking, the numbers of tenders for this venue at Dyfed Mawr do not meet the 200 guests as advertised. It's easy for members, it's easy for officers to say that we will enforce, but that will not be the case. It will be enforced by you not accepting the application today and having to revisit this application on many occasions. The access through the courtyard is unsafe. The toilet facilities are unmanageable. The
That's time, Chair.
Driveway, we have no 106 agreement.
Thank you, Simon. Apologies for cutting you off again, but hopefully you got your key points across there. Thank you very much for your points. We'll turn now to Councillor Mary Ann Brocklesby from Monmouthshire County Council. Please, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members of the committee, for the opportunity to speak today. My comments focus on three areas: traffic impact, pedestrian safety, and accessibility within the proposed development. Traffic impact. The only access to the site is, as has already been identified, a narrow green lane, and the volume of traffic using it during events is far beyond what would reasonably be expected for a designated quiet lane. This is already affecting normal traffic movements in Gilwyn Village. It is unclear from the documentation whether any traffic impact assessment was carried out during previous events held under temporary event notices. Without this, we do not have an accurate understanding of congestion or the environmental impact associated with events at this site. The highways assessment has not been updated since May 2024, although there was an assessment in September of last year. It referred back to that assessment of May 2024. Despite the significant changes since then, community speed watch data collected throughout 2025 has shown persistent speeding, enough for Gwent Police to increase Go Safe patrols. The lane was also formally designated a quiet lane in 2025, strengthening its intended purpose as a low-traffic, active travel corridor. At the same time, congestion around Lower Common and Glangriney Road has increased, and the venue now advertises events up to 200 guests. There is insufficient parking capacity either on site or in the village to support events of this size. But simply, traffic implications have changed significantly since 2024, yet the assessment has not. Safety concerns. Secondly, the green lanes passing bays are not wide enough for larger vehicles such as vans or delivery trucks. This becomes a serious issue during events when traffic volumes increase, not just on the day of the event, but leading up to and afterwards. This lane is meant to be a quiet, safe route for walkers, cyclists, people with mobility scooters, and those with prams. Event-related traffic directly conflicts with that purpose. The planning application does not acknowledge this conflict, nor propose any mitigation to protect vulnerable road users. Finally, the proposed toilet block does not appear to be DDA compliant and seems inadequate for the number of users, whether the 80 stated in the application or the 200 advertised online. Access is only through the courtyard, meaning wheelchair users or anyone with mobility difficulties would have to navigate between parked or moving vehicles to reach essential facilities. This presents a clear and avoidable barrier to accessibility. So these issues relate directly to highway safety, community impact, and basic accessibility standards. The development as proposed does not address these concerns, and the information provided is out of date. I respectfully ask the
Apologies again, Marianne, for cutting you off there. We've reached your time limit. Thank you very much for your comments. So we'll move now to Tony Carrington, who I believe is speaking in favour of the application. Tony, over to you. Muted. We'll just get you off mute, Tony. Hold fire for a moment.
Yeah, it doesn't give me an option.
I think you need to unmute yourself.
There we are. Is that
Great, thank you
now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. I've heard a lot about traffic issues in and around the application site. The actual highway that serves the private lane into the site, you could actually put two heavy goods vehicles side by side and they would have no issues going down there whatsoever. And I think if you look at a comparison site that to look at with regards to the traffic is the old rectory in Llangattock, where you have 36-seater, 40-seater vans, buses going through a narrow lane off the E4077 in through the village, down Swan Terrace and down to the rectory. So by comparison, this site here is far more superior in its method to cater for the traffic than any other site I know. The environmental impact and the employment, I think, is very important. And in fairness, over the last 20 years, the impact that that site had down there was horrendous, with heavy goods vehicles, rundown buildings, you name it, it was there. This applicant has taken it, the bull by the horn, and actually improved the site by employing grounds people to look after the site. And this will actually enhance on the environment itself. So I believe that there will be a minimum impact on this with them being managed. I live on the end of Elm Grove, which is adjacent to the access site to that. And regarding noise, yeah, you've got traffic going up and down, that's for sure. And they don't go racing up there because it is a residential area. And they usually go for the 465 down there. There were noise issues, but not now. They've been resolved. But I would also like to say that they did have problems in the beginning, but when the Green Man, which is 5 miles away from my house, I can hear the noise and music every single night from Thursday to Monday, and nobody has ever complained. So I think that, you know, with Hugh Owens and Mark with the highways, I think everything will be sufficiently looked after. It's just sad that people don't wish to support a scheme which is enhancing the countryside, and which is enjoying.
Thank you, Tony. Once again, apologies for cutting you off. Hopefully at the end of your comments there. Our final public speaker is Ms. Sophie Anderton, who is the agent acting on behalf of this application. Do we have Sophie with us?
Right. Yes, I'm here. I don't know how to get the camera on if I needed to do
We can
that.
hear you, Sophie, that's fine.
Okay, that's fine. Hi there. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. We're very glad that this long-standing application has finally got to this stage. And on behalf of the applicant, I just wanted to summarise a few key points, particularly regarding the improved management measures that have been evolving since submission of the application in March 24. Firstly, it's been clear from the outset that the principle of this development has never been an issue, and most exchanges are focused on the foul drainage and the management of noise and disturbance during an event. The foul drainage, as Fion's explained fully, have been all resolved through the issue of the permit in July 25. And in terms of noise and disturbance, the applicant has always been mindful of the need to manage this effectively since March 24, and the following measures have been put in place. Firstly, she's invested £40,000 in directional speakers from a company specialising in solutions for noise reduction. These actually face down onto the dance floor and minimise outward sound travel. Hugh Owen from Monmouth County Council, as you've heard, has visited the site on a number of occasions. And yes, there have been complaints which are acknowledged, but that has been an evolving process and has been responded to, and there haven't been any complaints received within the last year that I'm aware of. The applicant has also developed a method for noise recording in conjunction with Hugh Owen, using specialised noise measuring equipment that takes 4 measurements at regular intervals during each event, with equipment placed in 2 locations on the property. She's also appointed her own DJ, who has to be used for each event, and customers are not allowed to use their own. There is a strict no fireworks policy, and that's actually been added to the terms and conditions for guests staying in the house under the Airbnb arrangements. In terms of traffic disturbance, it should be noted that the majority of events take place over a weekend. This isn't a constant stream of traffic every day of the week. The guest numbers will be limited to 80. What's been going on to date is very different to what will be going on from this point forward, which is going to be more controlled and limited and enforceable through the conditions that are suggested in the report. The use of the minibus will do much of the local ferrying around. It's not just to the Bluebell Inn, but it will be also to surrounding residents and, you know, wherever people live within I think it's a 20-mile radius. And other measures such as the speed ramps, the stewards will all help to minimise that noise and disturbance. And the applicant, I know, is really committed to reducing that and managing it. It's had no interest in causing any problems in that regard. Finally, I should just say that we all know no development is without impact, but good planning is about balancing the adverse impacts with the benefits of a proposal. And
Thank you very much, Sophie. Apologies once again for cutting you off just before your end there. Thank you very much to all of our public speakers. We've heard some very impassioned views there from members of the public with concerns about traffic and noise and the impact on neighbours, number of guests and so forth, but also some positive comments from both the applicant and from Tony there. From the officers and from the Monmouthshire County officers, we've heard and seen in the report lots of conditions put in place to try and address, I think, most of those concerns that have been raised. And I think the additional thing we've been made aware of this morning is the permitted development rights, in the sense that lots of what's happening now and what could still be happening in the future is something that we can't control because it's under permitted development rights. The application in front of us has the opportunity to at least control some aspects of what are going on the site. So I think we need to bear that in mind. And we've already considered a little bit the question around ability to enforce some of those conditions. So I think there are lots of things for us to consider and discuss here. And I guess we have to make that balance of decision that's just been put to us around whether the conditions that we're proposing are sufficient to address the concerns that have been raised. So I'm going to open the floor to further questions, comments, discussions, etc. from members to, I guess, raise any further questions that are arising from those public speakers, and perhaps an opportunity for the officers to respond to those. I'd appreciate if people do have reservations about the application, if we can kind of hold off any alternative proposals for the moment at least, and let's just make sure we have an open conversation around this. That would be really helpful. So let me open the floor and see what hands I can see. Liz Bickerton first, and then Councillor Hugh. Liz.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder, from the highways point of view, whether the highways officer could say a little bit more about the quiet lane designation, because that is something that I've not picked up on. What the implications of that are, what is a quiet lane, etc. Perhaps the highways officer could say a bit about that, and perhaps just give us a little bit more colour in the round, other aspects, like I've just jotted them down: Gilwan Viaduct and the primary school. But so if the highways officer could just give us a little bit more background, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Sorry.
Sorry, Mark. Can I just add in? I think one of the other things I certainly picked up from the speakers there was, I guess, a difference of opinion around passing places.
Yeah.
We're told on one hand there's room for 2 HGVs to pass each other, and on the other hand that there are no passing spaces at all. So I wonder if you can cover that in your comments as well, please, Mark.
I'll do my best, Chair and members of the committee. I think first and foremost, I must outline what the Highway Authority's role in this application is we're totally impartial. We take a neutral stance. Our main objective is we only recommend refusal where there's a shortfall in standards in terms of safety and capacity. So if you bear that in mind, we have commented on this application as it sits with you at Planning Committee, and that is the application for 80 guests and associated infrastructure, etc., etc. So bearing that in mind, we made our comments in, I believe, early 2024. The quiet lane was introduced in September 2024, some months after we made our comments. Quiet lanes are not subject to a traffic regulation order. They are not enforceable. They are advisory, and they are installed to advise all users of the street I won't use lane because that's quite emotive, the street, that that area is a shared facility used by all. Usually there are no footways, but there are residential properties, there are vehicles, there are pedestrians, there are cyclists, there are even horse riders. It's a typical sort of unrestricted environment, and the signs are there just to reinforce and advise people that they are in a slightly different environment and to take care. So that is what a quiet lane is. The lane from what I refer to as the gardens, from there on, you have left what is considered an urban environment, and you're more in a rural environment, single track lane, which is reasonably wide, to be fair, because there's no hedgerows predominantly, and there are passing bays. They may be uncontrolled passing bays, i.e. junctions, access to properties, but they are areas for vehicles to pass. And the distance of public highway from the gardens to the lodge is approximately just in excess of 200 meters. It's not an unreasonable distance in in responding to the application for 80 vehicle movements. That is 80 vehicle movements to and from associated with the guests and those attending the ceremonies. So they're not arriving en masse. The vehicles associated with the wedding, obviously the actual participants in the wedding ceremony, the applicant has indicated that there will be up to a maximum of 40, of which probably 17 of them are already residing on site in the premises. So limited vehicle movements in the morning, usually around 11 o'clock, and then the ceremony, the additionals arrive. And then in the evening, there's an additional 40 vehicles, and there's a potential for minibus to be used as well, which will reduce the number of vehicles. So there is adequate capacity on that network, very short distance to enter this facility. Hence our inability to sustain an objection to the application for 80 guests. And hopefully I've clarified some of the points raised, and I'm happy if you can raise further ones or enlighten me if I've missed anything out.
Well, it was just that, sorry, Chair, there was mention of other areas. Having only gone to the site visit and not knowing the wider area, there was talk of Gilwen Viaduct and some discussion around the primary school. Just a little background there would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Again, this development will generate traffic movements that are not coincident with the peak travel patterns in the community. So if I can address the school, for instance, yes, the school is to the south of the proposal, but those visiting the venue will not be arriving in the week. Predominantly they'll be on a Saturday and Sunday. If they arrive on a Friday, they won't be arriving at the peak drop-off time outside the school, which is between 8 and 9 p.m. and realistically it's more congested between 8:30 and 9. Yeah, it will never be coincident with the PM peak, and usually that's quite complicated, the PM peak, because a lot of people arrive early and park, and it gets quite congested in that regard. This development will not generate the traffic, in our opinion, that will coincide with the school AM and PM peak hours. Similarly, regarding the viaduct, yes, it's been reduced to one lane, but the application was submitted in 2024 when those restrictions weren't in place. Again, it just adds to the inconvenience of travellers. 40 vehicles arriving during the course of the day. They will be arriving from north, south, east and west. They will not, I assume, will not be all arriving via Gilwen Viaduct. Similarly, when they depart, they will not be departing over Gilwen Viaduct. So it's very difficult to just home in on Gilwen Viaduct as being the pinch point for Gilwen when you have numerous other points of access to this development.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. We've got a few other hands I've got a few other hands up, but I just wonder if anybody else, anybody's questions were related to highways, if we maybe took those at the same time. Hugh, was yours anything to do with highways separate?
No, my main question was to do with highways, but I've got an additional question, if that's okay, Chair.
Yeah, let me just check whether anybody else had highways. John or Handel, were your questions related to highways? Both of them. So let me take John first then, please. Muted. Yeah, you're muted, John.
Mouse out of control. Yes, I had one transport-related one, and both disability-related ones. I was very taken by Councillor Brocklesby's remarks. But after having been on the site in ambulant mode, not using my mobility scooter, I now, on reflection, see that there were no passing spaces where a mobility scooter could safely pull in, and this ties in with my concern about the discussion of traffic movements has been very much focused on arrival of guests. Now, whether it's 80 guests as in the application or 200 as being described in the promotion, that's a lot of catering. That's a lot of food arriving on site. That's a lot of bottles of wine arriving on site. Those could be arriving not at any time, not just associated with, we don't know they won't arrive during school hours. So I think to dismiss school timing coincidence might be unreasonable. That we've not heard from commercial traffic would be some concern I'd have. So that was my traffic element related to commercial traffic and to peril for mobility scooters. I could go on to the question about DDA if you wanted me to.
Let me come back to you on that one, John. Let's take Mark. Did you want to respond to that immediately?
I'll do my best. It's going to be very difficult to respond. When you refer to mobility scooters, are you referring to guests travelling to the venue, or people who reside in the area reside within the existing environment?
Potentially both, but if the venue is to be quality compliant, they need to cater for disabled guests who will be using the area on mobility scooters. So
right, within the transport, yes. Picking up the applicant in the submission of the transport statement has accepted that, if not all, the vast majority of those visiting the application site will arrive by motor vehicle. And that will apply to disabled drivers and disabled occupants as well. So they will not, it is very, very unlikely, and we have not considered it a reason for consideration that they will arrive by mobility scooter. Okay. Those who already reside in the area are already experiencing the same environment, and this development, the application site, which is for 80 guests, will not adversely impact anybody's any existing use, and we don't consider it to be a safety or a capacity issue. Regarding your comments regarding servicing, I can only keep repeating myself here. We've commented on the basis of the application before us, which is for a development accommodating 80 guests, and the transport statement, in our opinion, when assessing it, adopts recognizes that service vehicles will be arriving before ceremony guests. That's excluding those who may be already residing on site in the accommodation, and will be departing during the ceremony or after the evening entertainment. They will not be coincident with guests arriving. And I can only emphasize that it is 40 one-way trips in and 40 trips out.
Thank you, Mark. John, do you want to come back on that?
Can I come back on that, please? Yes, because the fact that you've not articulated there is the venue, to be compliant as a service provider, must be accommodating disabled guests who may well arrive in their vehicles with mobility scooters on board and using mobility scooters to navigate around the venue, and
If I might, you are referring to the application site within the red line. I am referring to the public highway. I cannot comment on how the internal site is managed, other than insisting that appropriate parking levels are provided for those visiting the site, which they have quite adequately outlined in their transport statement. Regarding mobility issues in the site, that is not covered by the Highway Authority. That is other legislation in terms of how the site is operated, be it health and safety or DDA compliance.
Thanks, Mark. If you want to come back to that under your subsequent question, John, you might have an opportunity to do that. Handel, is that your question around the highways, please?
Yes, it's connected with highways. It's a general question, and for me, fundamental issue is the fact that the application has got a figure of 80, but it's been promoted and advertised for 200. So that therein lies the concern, I think, for most of the people who are concerned about it, is the anomaly there, and surely that's the crux of a lot of issues that bring some doubt as to whether this will be the case going forwards, 80 guests, or will it be 200 as it's been advertised. So that's the question I think has been key to the issue.
Right. If a fear of repeating myself, Chair and committee members, Highway Authority, my team has commented on the application before you. We are not commenting on what has happened in the past. No, we are commenting on what potentially could happen in the future. We are commenting on the application before you, which is for development of an 80-guest wedding venue. Fionn, your planning officer, has explained that the development is currently operating under permitted development rights of, I think it's up to 28 days a year. This application is for 80 guests, for considerably less than that, and we commented on that basis. We're not here to justify or otherwise the current operation of the site. We are here just to outline to you members and the plan application process that this site is deemed suitable for a venue of 80 guests, and that's all.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
I think that it certainly complicates the decision making from that point of view in terms of really kind of unraveling that. But I think that's really helpful for you really to keep repeating that point, because it is really material to our considerations. So thank you very much. Let me turn to Councillor Hugh then for your question, please.
Yeah, Chair, between Dr. Liz and Councillor Arnold, but asked both my questions. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks you. So John, if we come back to you for your EDI question.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I'm concerned, it's a question for Fionn, I think. I didn't pick up, my fault, I should have done, in looking at the plans, the issue with the toilet block and DDA compliance. And so my concern relates to the terrain, to the whole site and its development, asking Fionn, have we got sight of what efforts have been, because I've not seen them, made to ensure that the site is disability compliant? Because I'm not convinced it is.
So there's a section in the report that addresses the inclusive access of the site, so that Planning Policy Wales emphasises that planning should actively support the creation of healthy, inclusive and safe places. So there are 2 accessible parking bays, which will be situated close to the main entrance of the building. So the TP hard landscape strips will be extended to the main entrance, and all entrances will have level access.
Could you comment on Councillor Brocklesby's issue about the toilet block width?
Yeah, but there's a toilet block, so it has got accessible toilets, which have been, I presume, there's building regs associated with this as well. But are designated as accessible toilets. So that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Sean?
I think so. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other hands at the moment. I had a couple of questions, I guess. So the questions about the adequacy of the toilet provision in terms of quantities. Fionn, is that something you can comment on, or is that for environmental health to comment on, or both?
Well, I've got quantities. No, I can't comment on the actual quantity. I can tell you how much they're proposing in terms of just try to find. Here we go. So there's 3 toilets for ladies, 1 toilet and 2 rooms for gentlemen, and then there will be 1 disabled or a toilet for less able and mobile users. So that's what they're proposing, and then for 80 guests, temporary, for 28 days, for 25 days, 25 in that period. I think that's reasonable.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had was in relation, there was mention of a Gilwern local development plan. I'm not entirely sure what that is and what status it has, and that this application was argued that it was contrary to that. Can you comment on that at all?
I think that's probably the Brecon Beacons National Park local development plan. There isn't a local development plan specific to Gilwern, but there are policies that relate to the area in question.
Yeah, which is clearly dealt with through
the
report.
LDP
Okay.
policies that we quoted. Yeah.
So can I just ask then for a final round, any further questions or discussion points from members either in the room or on the screen? Yeah, William.
Chair, could you outline the options or the consequences of a refusal of this application in terms of the opportunity that the applicant has then to take that forward? And similarly, the objectors, what options are open to them in the event that this is passed for development? What options do they have, just for the awareness of any members of the public or indeed any other colleagues who might not be entirely clear on that point?
Yeah, is that something Davina or Gareth would like to comment on?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. So options for the objectors. So obviously there's a permitted development right fallback that is operating.
Yeah.
So if this were to be refused, that would be what could happen on the site. There'd be controls with regards to statutory noise controls. That would be the remit of Monmouthshire County Council.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think that and licensing maybe. Beyond that, and NRW permitting, things like that. Those would be the main controls under that option. If we were to refuse this for the objectors, I guess. And in terms of the applicants, then if we were to obviously approve this, then there'd be, need to record with the conditions, would be removing that permitted development right, fallback within the red outline. If we were to refuse, they would have a right of appeal. And then Sean will probably go into the protocol that we've got about if something was to go contrary to an officer recommendation and it needed to come back to committee and you state your reason should you go against officer recommendation. It's all in the planning protocol section 6.
I'm grateful for that clarification.
Is that sufficient clarification?
Yeah, it is.
Thank you. Okay. I'm conscious we heard briefly from Hugh Owens on the matter of fireworks. I wondered, Hugh, just an opportunity, if there was anything else you wanted to add in relation to what we've heard this morning.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a few points, if I may, just to clarify why Environmental Health did not object to this application. When we consider applications from the point of view of a noise perspective, it's essentially as to is it possible, if a site is well managed, for the development to progress without causing excessive disturbance on a regular basis. So as the applicant's representative, Sophie Anderton, mentioned, it's been an evolving process. Complaints first came to us, so loud music emanating from a site, I believe, in the summer of 2022. So we have endeavoured then to work and advise the applicant on our expectations to make sure that activities at the site, music in particular emanating from the site, does not give rise to, in our opinion, a statutory noise nuisance. So some of the key points that has entailed is early, around about this time, I believe, last year, they invested in directional speakers. That's particularly important. So in effect, the speakers direct the music down onto a dance floor, as opposed to speakers which could be mounted ground floor level, which then direct the music through the dance floor and towards any nearby receptors. So that's a really important point. Distance to the nearby residential properties, I think the closest is around about 200 meters to the southwest. So yeah, potentially the residents in the area can be disturbed if the music is not carefully controlled and managed. But equally, if it is carefully controlled and managed, in my opinion, it does not necessarily then have to cause excessive disturbance. In-house music being provided, in other words, their own DJ provided recorded music. That again is an expectation has been set out by the applicants. Very important, because it means that that DJ has a vested interest in making sure that the entertainment goes ahead without causing excessive disturbance, as opposed to perhaps guest bands, etc., who are only there to make sure that they provide entertainment on that particular night. And understanding and developing with the applicants the importance of sound checks and how they do those. So that's a suite of measures, together with limiting the guests as proposed to 80. That in effect translates to, you don't have to have the music excessively loud, or don't have to have high music levels at the source necessarily to entertain 80 guests, as opposed to if there was a venue 200, 300, 400 guests, obviously the music needs to be louder. So basically, in essence, those are some of the principles, fundamental principles, why Environmental Health haven't objected. In my opinion, this site can be managed without causing excessive disturbance to music, from music to nearby residents. I hope that helps clarify our position.
Thank you very much, Hugh. I just wanted to pick up on one point that was raised earlier by you, John, the question of balloon release. You suggested that we should impose an additional condition around that. So I'm just going to ask the officers, how would we deal with that? If we were wishing to impose an additional condition, would that require us to go away and come back again with this application with that condition added, or is there a way of dealing with that?
Yeah, I think we had a back and forth where I think we were thinking, questioning, does that meet the test of what a condition would do? Is it going a step too far to be considered, necessary, relevant to planning, relevant to the development to be permitted, enforceable, precise, reasonable in all other aspects? And the initial reaction to thinking about putting that type of condition on was that I felt that is it reasonable in all other respects? And I would consider no, but ultimately it's for members to decide whether they would disagree with that, but that's my officer opinion, I think.
Okay, I'm seeing nods here from Fionn as well. So that's the response from the officers, John. Feeling that it's not an appropriate condition. That's not necessarily for us to. We can ask them to go away and look at it if we feel sufficiently strongly about it. So I have another question from Councillor Hughes.
I have a question, Chair. I can't see any material planning consideration to turn this down. There have been some excellent speakers in the community, but we've heard of the two people that are particularly impacted with the monitoring officers. They are on site, they've measured it. There's no objection in NRW, Llanelli Community Council, there's no comment. The two monitoring officers, there's nothing with the drainage, the ecology, there's no objection. I'm going to recommend that we accept the officer's recommendation and I'm going to test the committee because I can't find material, unless we are in a planning meeting. What is the material planning consideration to turn this down? I can't see one. I think the report is comprehensive, so thank you for that, Fiona. I think we've heard from the officers. I recommend that we accept the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Hugh. I'll treat that as a proposal. And I think understanding the situation regarding permitted development, I think was really important from my point of view of not getting, you know, the issues around 280s and so forth, whilst being really we understand the significance of those. The application before us is for the controlled development up to 80 guests. So just I think we need to very much bear that in mind, and that's very much helped me to clarify things this morning. I have another question, right? Hand up from Councillor Edwin.
I would like to second that proposal.
Okay, so if I can just recap on the recommendation ahead of us, because it's slightly different to what was written in the reports. So the recommendation is to delegate powers to the Director of Planning and Place to grant planning permission subject to planning conditions in paragraph 12 of this report. With, I don't know if you've got some specific words you want to add on to that, Phil.
Yeah.
This is around the permitted development removal.
So up to where you went, and the inclusion of an additional condition withdrawing permitted development rights to be agreed with the Director of Planning and Place and Chair and Deputy Chair of the Planning Committee.
Thank you very much, Phil. So if you're proposing
with that
recommendation, with that addition.
Condition.
Yeah, and Edwin, happy to second that. I have a finger from Sean. Sorry, Sean.
Just a slight change to the part that you mentioned. So delegated to the director in consultation with. Just we want to just clear. We don't want full power of the delegation. So delegated to the director who consult with the two members. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we are in a position to move to the vote. Danny, take us through the vote, please.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Julian Stephen.
Obliged.
Councillor Handel Davis.
Obliged.
Professor John Hunt. Muted, John.
Against.
Dr. Liz Bickerton.
Obliged.
Councillor Ed Jones.
For.
Councillor Edwin Roderick.
Obliged.
Councillor Hugh Williams.
Obliged.
Councillor Peter James.
Obliged.
Councillor William Powell.
Against.
And yourself, Chair.
Obliged.
So that's 2 against, 2 not present. So that's 8 for, so it's passed.
Thank you, Dan. Well, thank you very much, members, for I think a very thorough run through of that application, thorough debate. A huge thanks to our public speakers. I hope you feel that we heard you and have taken your views into consideration. And you've heard the debate that we had. I hope you feel that we've given it a very thorough run through. And thank you very much, everybody involved in that. I'm going to suggest that we take a short comfort break. It's now 11:55. We could reconvene at 12:05 to consider the next application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Stepping out at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Alexa, remind me in 9 minutes.
What's the reminder for?
Very nice, go down.
Are we all back on the screen?
You're looking very serious, John.
We're back live again. Just wait for Handel. Ed's with us. Simon.
So, why leave now or wait till we start meeting?
Wait until we start.
We can start now, sorry.
Just waiting for Handel to reappear.
Yeah, so we start and we'll start getting. Okay.
Yeah, note from Ed there that you need to leave at 1, so we'll hopefully be done by then. We'll see how we
You
get
can
on.
do the run down the garage to get sandwiches.
Okay, it looks like we're all back in the room, folks. So thank you very much for returning properly. We're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is application 25/24210, Sennybridge School, for which Fionn again is the case officer. Welcome back, Simon. Fionn, let me hand over to you. Are you ready? So Fionn's just getting her presentation together. We'll bear with her for a moment or two.
Yes.
Perhaps while we're waiting for Fionn, we have a declaration of interest from Edwin that we heard earlier. So perhaps Edwin, this is the point for you to leave. Yeah, and we'll call you back in once this one's done. Thank you very much.
I'll kick the box.
Don't you dare. If you actually do. Sorry. Not mean to do.
Fabulous. Over to you, Fionn. Well done. Thank you. There we go.
So, Penhounder.
Yes. Yes.
Well done.
I've got more down on my list. So this application is for the demolition of the existing primary school and construction of a new school on the site with sports, play facilities, parking, and associated works at Sennybridge School in Sennybridge. The application is being presented to members today, given it's a major development in the National Park and it's of public interest. So Sennybridge School is located in a rural village, approximately 9 miles west of Brecon, and is surrounded by residential properties, a healthcare centre near the access to the northeast, and a cattle market to the north. There is open woodland to the south with the Avon Senny beyond. It has 2 floors and the exterior walls are uninsulated and made of red brick and light colour render. There is also a separate building which occupies the canteen. The existing site includes the current school building, car park for staff and visitors, and open playing fields and a playground. There is a combined vehicle and pedestrian access, and there is also separate pedestrian access to the north, which is accessed by a set of dilapidated steps. It is proposed to demolish the existing primary school and construct a new school on site with sport play facilities, parking, and associated works. The school is positioned within the existing playing fields to the north of the existing school structure. There will be no increase in the school capacity, with the number of pupils and staff remaining the same. So here are slides, two slides, one showing the proposed layout and one showing the existing layout, showing the existing school. So, is my cursor? Oh, my cursor's not actually working, but you can quite clearly see which one's which. The ones on the right-hand side of the screen is the existing, and then you can see on the left-hand screen is showing in red the new build school building with the car park beyond. The proposed car park will be positioned to the north of the site, making it more accessible via the original main school entrance, along with the new multi-use games area pitch adjacent. The new school building will be located within the centre of the site, just north of where the existing building stands. The proposed building layout allows space for future expansion to the west if needed. To the south of the site will be playing courts and pitches, including a 50-metre racetrack, hard netball courts and a football pitch. A new external learning space is also proposed next to the woodland area. In relation to the car parking, the school will have a capacity for 40 spaces, 2 accessible spaces, which also have 2 separate laybys for coach and minibus drop-offs. The new car park will be positioned to the north of the site with more space for drop-off pickup area for pupils. The access will be via the existing access point. So this application has been considered against the adopted policies of the Brecon Beacons National Park Development Plan. In making the recommendation of this application, I've been taking into consideration the relevant policies of the development plan, legislation and comments made by consultees or other interested parties following national guidance referred to above. So given its location on the existing school grounds, the principle of the development is considered acceptable. So here's a slide of the proposed design of the new school. The proposed design of the new school is similar to a number of primary schools within the national park, with flat roof, timber cladding and facing brickwork. It will be a contrast to the current building on site, however it's considered to be appropriate in scale, size, mass and external appearance. The school has been designed to be appropriate to its setting. The existing school is a 1939 construction of red brick, render and tiled roof. The building is not suitable and is desperate need of replacement. So here's a floor plan of the proposed school. So here are the plans for the bike parking. So the east of the new building, there will be a cycle storage shelter, bin storage, fire pump area, air source heat pump enclosure and the substation. This will be surrounded by close border timber fencing, and the school is being designed to achieve net zero carbon in operation. So here's a plan of that particular area. So an acoustic fence is proposed to the southeast of the site. You can see by the letter A, and you can see a very hard yellow line. So that's an acoustic fence, which is located next to the closest neighbouring properties, residential properties. So the acoustic fence is as shown on that plan. I'll mention the reason for that later. Regarding that acoustic fence, here's a drone photograph which was supplied to me by the agent, showing the existing circumstances on site in relation to the site area and the neighbouring properties, and to show that where that acoustic fence is going. So it's going on the line of the existing fence that's adjacent to the actual car park, so not the line on the boundary of the property. So that green strip between both lines will remain. Just to mention, one third-party representation was received in relation to the impact of this proposed new acoustic fence. However, the fence has been submitted because of the potential impact on noise to neighbouring residential properties from the playing areas of children playing. So when you balance that out, it is considered that based on where it is, it's higher than the existing fence. I think the existing fence is about 1.2 metres. The proposed acoustic fence is just over 2 metres. We have asked for details of that fence to be submitted as a part of the condition. But in considering the impact on neighbour, I think the acoustic fence would be more beneficial in protecting their amenity from noise. So here are 2 photos. So I'm here standing at the school, looking north. So this green area is where the school will be positioned, and you can see the cattle market just beyond on this particular area, and then this is further down. It's just like a triangular panoramic view. So there are a number of constraints on site, and these have been addressed by consultees. There are no concerns in relation to the impact of a proposed development on the setting of nearby scheduled ancient monuments or listed buildings, and no archaeological objection was raised. In relation to ecology, bats were found on site in the new school, so and a bat house is proposed, but no objection is raised from the ecology subject to conditions. A green infrastructure statement and biodiversity enhancements were submitted. There will be net loss of grassland habitat, and 4 trees are to be removed to accommodate a new building. However, they are proposed to plant 55 new trees within the school grounds. There is no development within the river flood zone, and there is not anticipated there will be any displaced fluvial flood storage as a result of the development. NRW have also commented on this respect with no objection. There is a small area of surface water flood zone to the nearest of the northeast of the site within the area of proposed landscape and access and parking, and there is existing surface water drainage system on site which collects surface water flows and discharges the public sewer network via a foul drainage system. So no objection was received from Powys County Council Land Drainage, subject to proposal be to considered under their separate SAB process. In terms of the impact on the River Esk, the proposal was screened out as no likely to have a significant effect on the SAC in relation to nutrients. Demolition works will be undertaken 60 metres from the SAC, and as a result, a full HRA screening and a public assessment was undertaken to address pollution prevention measures during demolition. NRW have agreed with us in our conclusion, subject to conditions. In terms of air quality, it is recommended that the proposed development should adopt good design principles and best practice to measure to reduce any potential emissions and to ensure any local air quality impacts will be minimised and as low as reasonably practical. So representation was received from Powys County Council Environmental Health in relation to air quality, and have concluded that the screening undertaken demonstrates that the site and development proposals screen out the need for full air quality assessment. A dust management plan is also conditioned to given the close proximity of residential properties and the pupils in the existing school who have moved to the new school during the demolition of the older school. So noise was also considered in respect of the air source heat pumps and the outside play areas. So the noise impact assessment did recommend that acoustic barrier, which I previously referred to, and subject to that being in place, they raised no objection. In relation to highways, comments were received from Powys County Council and the Welsh Government Highway Department, given its close proximity to the trunk road. No objections, again, subject to condition. The design also complies with the active travel principles. No objection is raised in relation to land contamination, subject to conditions, which is also the same for the impact on trees. Full details of the considerations along with the conditions can be found in the written report, and there are 32 conditions, so there are quite a significant amount of conditions, but we're happy that they are things that we can they'll comply with and address. We just like to raise another question on conditions. Condition 32, so there are proposed 4 electric vehicle charging points. installed in the car park. The condition states that 4 electric vehicle charging points shall be installed within the car park in accordance with details submitted in the submitted design access statement and in accordance with the Future Wales National Plan. I have just reworded that slightly because we want to ensure that we do actually install the electric charging points. That's my error, my omission. So I have just added in to be installed prior to the beneficial use of the school. So we can just reword that. And this is to ensure that the charging points are actually installed on site. So I just got some few more photos here to show. Again, these are photos from the actual school looking north. That yellow building, well, off-white building is the medical centre. And as you can see, there's the track, the existing access that's going into the current school. The existing access on the highway will be used, but the new school will be in the playing fields, as you see. So that's the access. You can see there, again, part of the medical centre, and you can see some of the residential properties. They are quite close, and there's the existing car park. So just to have a flavour of how integrated and close the school is with the neighbouring residential properties. So these are the existing pictures of the school. This is the canteen area, the separate building, and you can see part of the school in white there. There we go, part of the school as it was when I went on site end of last year. There's the existing playing area, and you can see there the existing hall. And then these are just a few photos from the access. So that is the green area. That's where the new school will be built, and this is taken from the highway or the footpath just to the north of the site. And then that's just a picture looking in then from the access in the existing access into the existing school. And again, just for context, that's a medical centre there on the left hand side. So given the above, the application is recommended for approval, and we will probably discuss again how we change the wording of the condition, but just to slightly amend the wording on that, the condition 32. Thank you very much.
Fionn, again, thank you very much for that presentation and comprehensive report. So, as usual, questions for clarity on the presentation and report first. Any questions, Julian?
Yes, thank you, Fionn. I agree, very good report. Just the lighting, I noticed we got a condition 12 covering external lighting. I don't think you talked about this much, but are there any proposals to floodlight or light up the pitches? Because I know those in close proximity to residential areas can be quite tricky ones to manage. Yeah. And so, first of all, I'd like to establish whether there are proposals for that and how you will deal with that under condition to make sure they are not detrimental to neighbouring amenity.
Yeah, so they're not proposing any floodlights or any external lighting as part of the application. The lighting condition is there, so any lighting will have to be submitted to us and approved. And as you said, we scrutinise any floodlighting because, as you said, it's not really nice for residential properties. And we've got a dark sky.
I was going to say dark skies issues there. I mean, Senny Bridge is a very rural part of the national park, and we wouldn't wish to see substantial lighting, shall we say, on the site.
And it's all to do with bats as well, with lighting as well. So we don't want to, because as I said, there have been bats identified in the old school, so we know there's bats there. So again, that would be a very strong consideration when looking at any proposed lighting.
Thank you, Julie. Councillor Simon.
Thank you. Thank you, Officer, for the report this morning on the new school. Could I just be clear, this is a new 210 school, yes?
Can you repeat that, please? A new...
Sorry, let me just have a look at my mic here. Oh, I'm on full. This is a new 210 school, isn't it, for Sunnybridge? Yes, 210 with the classrooms.
Pupils, yeah, it is,
Yes.
it is, yes, no, it's no capacity, it's 120, I think, is it?
120.
There's no increase.
So, right, okay, fine. Could you tell me how many parking spaces we have there, and is there a nursery included in this, and is there on-site catering there? And it's only going back probably some conversations I've had over the previous application. What parking spaces have we got there with this application in numbers, please?
Yeah, so we have, let me just find my relevant picture. Yeah, so there's a capacity for 40 spaces with 2 accessible spaces. And there's 2 separate laybys then for coach and minibus drop-offs. And there's obviously these electric vehicle points as well that's going to be installed on there as well in the car park.
So we could be talking approximately 45 to 50 parking spaces for the school itself for staff and visitors, yeah?
No, I think it's a maximum of 40 and then all the others included in that 40.
Okay.
So it's not
Sorry. So visitors to the school then, i.e. training or whatever, they'll be part of the 40 as well, will they? So a 120 school probably offers probably about 20 staff, let's say 22, and then we have visitors. Okay, and then for children's drop-off, etc., is that being eased there at this school, do you know, or is there a special drop-off area for children and parents?
Yes.
I just wonder. I couldn't see anything on the drawings really.
Yeah, there is a space for drop-off and pick-up areas for buses and minibuses within the site. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Professor John. You're muted, John.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Fionn. It looks good to me, but I've got one impression that perhaps you can advise me on. Looking at the now and proposed, I get a sense that there's a dramatic decrease in the infiltration capacity of the land after construction. Would I be right in assuming that? And if that's the case, is there any provision for making any car parking or any hard standing permeable in such a way that it could offset the porosity loss? Now, that's one question. And the other one was asking, like Simon, about the parking. How many teachers are working on site, and is 4 EV charging points enough to look forward to the growing use of EV charging? How many teachers are likely to be parked? And
so there's 26 staff members and approximately 25 daily visitors, and there's 120 pupils at the school. So in terms of 4 electric vehicle, that's in accordance with Future Wales. That's what's required, so that's what they proposed. In terms of surface water, they will have to go through the SAB process separately in terms of permeability. SAB, or Land Drainage Powers, have consulted and looked at the application, and they did have no objection, but they will have to go through that process separately with Powers. Yes, there is they are losing some green area like grass, but they are mitigating that with trees. So yeah, so I'm confident about the drainage stuff with
thank
SAB.
you, Fionn. One point related to their green plan. Any of us that deals with a lot of recycling, as I'm sure most of us do, know that at home it can be a nightmare how recycling can creep out of the containers that we use. And the fact they're developing cycle shelters there is brilliant. And I wonder if there are any in the plans, any provision for contained recycling storage to
Yeah.
encourage recycling.
So within that area where they have the cycling area, there's a separate section that has got bin storage as well, which I presume was included in recycling.
Thank you. That's me.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Fiona, for your responses. Any other questions or clarification? I'm not seeing any other hands. So we don't have any public speakers for this one, so we can move straight on to, I guess, considering whether we feel the case has been adequately made by the applicants with appropriate conditions, of which there are lots, to justify approving and agreeing with the recommendation. So any general conversation, discussion points? Not seeing any hands. So we do have a recommendation in front of us to once again delegate powers to the Director of Planning in place to grant planning permission subject to planning conditions in paragraph 11 of this report, subject to a minor amendment to condition 32.
Condition 32 to be discussed or
to be
whatever.
To be agreed by the director in consultation with the usual words.
Yeah.
Do I have a proposer? Julian, do I have a seconder? John? Danny, could you take us through the vote, please?
So, Mr. Julian Steadman,
Obliged.
Councillor Handel Davis,
Sorry,
Obliged.
Dr. Victor, obliged. Councillor Ed Jones,
For.
Councillor Hugh Williams,
Obliged.
Professor Hunt,
Obliged.
Councillor Howard,
Obliged.
Councillor Peter James,
Obliged.
and yourself, Chair.
Obliged.
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much, members. Thank you, Fionn, for your presentation. And thank you, Paris Council, for I think a well put together application. So we will move on to our next application. Item 3 in enclosure 5, application 25/23778/4 Riedewen and Vark. So Liz Bickerton has declared an interest in this and has now left the room, so we can call Councillor Roderick back in and welcome Max Webb, who's the case officer who's going to present on this. So we'll give Max a few moments to set himself up while we get Edwin back in the room. If we can find him.
Councillor Roderick, if you're ready, please.
Let me know when you're ready, Max. So anyone trying to follow things in the report, we're on to page 95 now. Yes. Fingers crossed. Looking good. Great. Over to you, Max. Thank you.
Hello members. Today we have an application for the construction of an annex extension to an existing dwelling, integrated garage and other associated works. The application also seeks retrospective permission for some previously installed roof lights. It's been brought to committee due to public interest, and I have no late correspondence or consultation with council to report. The site comprises an existing residential dwelling located in the countryside of the National Park on the A470 between Brecon and Livernoth. The dwelling sits on a large isolated plot with the surrounding landscape characterised by open agricultural fields, bounded by hedgerows, interspersed by other isolated dwellings, farms and agricultural buildings, with the industrial estate on the edge of Brecon approximately 1 kilometre to the northeast. The site is located in the River Ross Special Area of Conservation Catchment, with the river approximately 100 metres to the southeast of the site, which is designated as part of the River Ross Tributaries Site of Special Scientific Interest and River Ross Special Area of Conservation. The dwelling itself is a substantial 2-storey detached property with a rear single-storey extension and a separate 2-storey rear extension, as well as an attached single-storey open store projecting to the front. The dwelling is finished in a mix of natural stone and painted render, with slate to the roofs of the main dwelling, corrugated sheeting to the roof of the open store. Sorry, I think we're just moving the mic a bit closer. The site photos here show the front elevation, side elevation, and then the rear elevation here. The existing block plan on the left shows the property at present with the access from the main road here, parking area to the front, previous single-storey rear extension here, and then the previous two-storey rear extension here. The proposal seeks to extend the existing dwelling to form an annex, including a 2-storey side element shown on the right here, which would consist of living space and a bedroom. The ground floor here, again, living space and a bedroom. And then this element projecting to the front is also 2-storey and consists of a double garage with a store above. The proposal also seeks to install a row of solar panels to this rear south-facing roof slope of the 2-storey element, and seeks permission for this row of roof lights, or these rows of roof lights on the rear elevation, as well as these 2 roof lights on the front elevation here. The annex would be physically connected to the main dwelling and would retain an integral connection through shared vehicular access, parking, amenity space and utilities, including foul drainage. I've included a condition to ensure the proposal would not be utilised for any other purposes than as an annex. I think some third-party comments did raise concerns that the proposal could be utilised as a separate independent dwelling unit in the countryside. However, with this integral connection and the condition, I do not consider that this would be an issue in practice. Third-party comments also questioned whether the proposal had been designed for a person in need of care. I've included this ground floor plan here just to highlight that the proposed annex has actually specifically been designed with care aims in mind. All the living space on the ground floor, all the living space will be on the ground floor. As you can see, there's a bedroom, the kitchen area, utility, living space there. All the doorways would be wheelchair accessible. All the external doorways would be 0 threshold. Access to the annex from car parking areas would be a level surface. The proposed ensuite and cloakroom would be a wet room with 0 threshold between sort of the showering area and the rest of the room. The only room that would be on the first floor would be a sort of a guest or future carers accommodation. The existing elevations are shown here on the left, with the proposed elevations here on the right. You can see the 2-storey element here. So this little end part here would be the sort of living space. This end would be the double garage area, and then the single-storey extensions here, with the solar panels shown on here and the roof lights shown on this elevation and this elevation. With regard to scale, the 2-storey element of the proposal would be set down from the host dwelling, as you can see on the plans here, and would feature a matching gable-ended roof with a similar roof pitch to the main dwelling itself, which ensures the proposal would appear subservient in scale, whilst retaining a similar form and character as the main dwelling. The single-storey element would be to the rear, and the use of the flat roof ensures it would be subservient in scale as well, and would not detract from the character of the main dwelling. You can see the gable end of the existing store to the right here. It's a similar style and pitch to the proposal here, and that's reflected on the end of the main dwelling itself as well. By integrating the proposed annex and garage with the main dwelling and thereby grouping the buildings within the same proximity on the site, the proposal avoids the spread of buildings and subsequent urbanisation of the wider site, and therefore maintains the rural character of the surrounding area. The proposal will be finished with a charred larch cladding to the walls, a zinc seam roof covering to the pitched roof elevations, the two-storey extension elements, and a synthetic roof covering to the flat-roofed single-storey elements. Third-party comments were received suggesting that proposed materials will be out of character with the host dwelling and that there will be an overall lack of harmony. In contrast, I consider that the proposed cladding to the walls provides reference to the relatively common dark cladding seen on agricultural buildings in the wider area, while the zinc seam roof would create a somewhat contemporary appearance, which contrasts well with the natural stone and painted render of the original dwelling. And the clear separation this provides between the new proposal and the more traditional appearance of the main dwelling ensures the elements can be read as separate additions to the property, while still providing reference, as I say, to the rural agricultural character of the host dwelling and surrounding area. And overall, with regard to design, I consider the scale and siting of the proposed annex and garage to be appropriate to the host dwelling, limiting wider landscape visual impact, with the proposed design and materials providing a contemporary addition or successfully integrating with the traditional host dwelling and surrounding rural character. Turning to ecology matters, the proposal would see the loss of some small shrubs and an area of lawn. You can see where the proposal would be here, and it would lose a small area of lawn around here and some shrubs. Landscaping proposals include significant new native species tree and hedgerow planting. You can see the dark green hedgerow around the boundary of the site to the south here, and then around a new area of planting here, which would consist of some fruit trees. And it also proposes some beehives in the fruit tree area, as well as some bat boxes in some nearby trees within the site. And then some swift boxes are also proposed on the dwelling itself. The Community Council did comment on the original proposals to request further measures, biodiversity enhancement measures. However, this is a revised landscaping proposal here, which is an increase over what was initially questioned by the Community Council. And the authority's planning ecologist has confirmed that these would be suitable measures and adequate. A bat survey report has been submitted with no evidence of impacts on bat roosting, and no further survey effort was recommended. The existing roof lights would see the addition of a night vision film to reduce light spill as well. Again, the authority's ecologist confirmed this would be suitable, raised no objection subject to conditions that are included in full. Turning to foul drainage, the proposal would replace an existing septic tank with a new package treatment plant and drainage field. You can see that marked on here. Details of this have been provided alongside a percolation test, which were reviewed by Environmental Health and considered acceptable. As the site is located within the River Usk catchment, the application was screened in accordance with NRW's advice. A full HRA screening and appropriate assessment was undertaken, with the authority's ecologist concluding that the adverse effects on the integrity of the River Usk SAP could be avoided by adherence to planning conditions. NRW were consulted on the appropriate assessment and agreed with this conclusion. These conditions have been included in full again. No concerns were raised in relation to the effect of the proposal on the nearby SSI. Just to summarise the remaining considerations, adequate parking is available, as you can see on the proposed block plan and this picture here, and the access remains unaltered, so would be suitable, and there are no highway safety concerns. The Trunk Road Authority were consulted as the Trunk Road Authority as the Highway Authority for this site were consulted and raised no concerns. Due to the nature of the proposal and its isolated location, there are no concerns with regards to neighbouring amenity, and no concerns were raised in relation to archaeology, surface water drainage, air quality, or any other relevant matters. Overall, the proposed development would comply with the relevant policies of the development plan and all other relevant policy guidance and legislation. It's therefore my recommendation to delegate powers to the Director of Planning in place to grant planning permission, subject to planning conditions in paragraph 10 of my report.
Thank you very much, Max. Questions around clarity? Any questions in the room? Not seeing any hands up on the screen. I have a question, Max. I'm slightly puzzled about the roof lights. So the report talks about the roof lights as if they are new, but they are already in place and have been for some time. So how were they approved? As indicated in the report, that what's actually in place is not quite what was approved?
Yes, so the application seeks retrospective permission for these roof lights. As a previous application approved some roof lights on this rear elevation, and I believe some on the front elevation as well. What has been installed was not in accordance with what was previously approved on the site. So this, as I say, this application seeks retrospective permission for what is actually here on this plan.
Thank you. Any other questions or clarity? Okay, in which case, once again, we have no public speakers, so we can open the discussion around the relative merits of the application. I'm going to kick off as a regular. I pass this place regularly on my way from Liverpool to Aberhondey and vice versa. And I made particular note the last couple of times I passed it that the work that's been done on the front elevation is very sympathetically done. It's been done over the last few years, and it looks really quite in keeping with things. It was quite striking, the rear elevation from the road. Those roof lights really do stand out as something kind of not entirely in keeping, as does that very stark gable end with the two windows on it. I know that this application doesn't change that, so I guess it's kind of irrelevant to our discussions to some extent. While to me the additions that they're proposing do look quite sympathetic and contrasting to the existing building. It's kind of a shame they're keeping the bits that aren't really in keeping, but I guess we approved that previously, so there's not a lot we can do about that unless we objected to the roof lights. But you're suggesting that it was a similar coverage.
I think there was there was a similar overall coverage. The proposed of the previously approved roof lights were sort of larger but closer together towards the centre. I have got the plan. I can share it if it would be useful. But I think my opinion was that the overall effect of these would be very sort of what's actually been installed would be very similar to those previously approved.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, points from the floor? Hugh.
Yeah, looking at the drawing, the access to and from the A4 470, that's a quick road there. There's traffic really travelling. Doesn't look. Can you confirm that it's adequate? And it must be, I suppose. But can you clarify that or say it more? There's one of the drawings back a bit that shows the tight sort of.
This, just to clarify, this orange area you can see on the right here where my cursor is. This is open. This is like a gravelled area. It's not built form, so the visibility in this direction is reasonable. Same in the other direction. As I say, the Highway Authority were consulted on the application and then didn't raise an objection to the access. And it's my opinion that as the access isn't being altered, there's not going to be a significant increase in traffic. There isn't going to be an effect on highway safety, even if the access was considered inadequate or unsuitable.
Thank you. Thank you, Max. I'm not seeing any other hands up anywhere. So we have a recommendation in front of us to delegate powers to the Director of Planning in place to grant planning permission subject to the planning conditions in paragraph 10 of the report, with no additions and changes this time. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Edwin. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hugh. In which case, Danny, could you take us through the vote, please?
So, Mr. Julian Steadman,
Apply.
Councillor Handel Davis,
Obliged.
Councillor Ed Jones, Councillor Edwin Roderick,
Obliged.
Councillor Hugh Williams,
Obliged.
Professor John Hunt,
Abstain.
Councillor Simon Howard,
Obliged.
Councillor Peter James,
Obliged.
and yourself, Chair.
Obliged.
With one abstention.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Max. You're free to depart unless you wish to sit through the rest of the meeting. So, thank you very much, members. That's the substantive business and decisions for us to make for the day. We now move on to
some of the items for noting. So closure 6, first item, delegated decisions report, which starts on page 117. This is just for noting, but if anybody does have any questions, comments, or anything they wish to raise around that report, please indicate. I'm not seeing any hands. Yes, I am seeing Edwin. Did you raise your hand now?
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. So I'm not seeing any hands. So is that a show of hands to note this one, Danny? So show of hands, please.
Well, show of hands if there's anything that they want to raise. Is that how we normally do it?
So we just skip over it because nobody's raised anything. Okay, thank you very much. So we note that report with our thanks to the team for all the work they've done that sits behind that report in putting all that together. As always, lots of work going on there. Next item then is the agricultural notifications on page 120. Again, similarly, any questions, comments to raise on that one? I'm not seeing anything, so again, we will note that one with thanks to the team for the work on that one. Moving on then to the appeals on pages 121. Similarly, anybody want to raise anything? We've got one appeal that's been lodged. If I can get back to the right page. Sabina, can you tell us anything about that appeal? The description's a little bit.
So it's a certificate. It was a decision we made a good while ago, but it's only just been validated by PEDU. It's been in the registration period for quite some time, I think, but it's a certificate.
And it's being used by holidaymakers and.
We refused it based on the evidence put forward. The description is as per their occupation of the property as a dwelling by holidaymakers and members and friends of the applicant.
Watch with interest to see where that one goes. So I'm not seeing any hands on that one, so we'll move on to item 4, fringe notifications, page 123. Any questions or comments on that one? I think there's just one in there, isn't there, which is around another wind farm. Is that right? So I think this was Max, was it?
Yeah. So it's scoping stage. So this is the preamble to the developer doing their environmental statement, considering what needs to be covered in this environmental statement in advance of potentially them submitting an application. So this is this question: what do I need to include in my environmental statement? That PEDU are responding to the developer, and we're responding to PEDU to assist them in answering that question.
Okay. Great. So thanks to Max for putting those comments through on our behalf. I'm not seeing any hands raised around that one, so we'll note that one and move on to the local access forum minutes on page 127. So I know these minutes are from July last year, so some little while ago now. I'm sure members are aware we have a member workshop on the 19th of March where we're going to be looking at the kind of role of the LAF and the role of where we fit in terms of as members in terms of engagement with the whole question of access around the park. So an opportunity to think a little bit more about how the LAF works and what its engagement and relationship to this committee might be. Did I see a hand up there, Edwin?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I do try to get to these actually. I find them quite informative actually in so many ways. However, I did get to the last one. Quite a few things really needed to go over. 2 points really which I'd like to bring up, which is more for us as an authority. There were 2 new appointments, or relatively new appointments. I didn't quite get the name of the one. Kim, Countryside and Estate Management. And the other one was connected with Family Bro, Philippa Jennison. It'd be nice to be kept more informed, to be perfectly frank with you. Who's who, but if we've got somebody new coming into the authority, who are they, what are they doing, and etc. like that, because there are times we need to communicate and get back in touch or whatever it may be, So I would very much appreciate that ongoing. One thing I brought up really, I was discussing with Councillor Hume just now. I'm very concerned with a lot of the tourists that are coming into the area, the lack of respect they have for the area and where they are, i.e. defecating wherever they feel like. And, you know, it's the countryside court goes a long way. They need to remember that there's an issue now where it's in the churchyard down in Cashman. There's a place around our way where they do park cars and go walking. You know, we wouldn't do it outside people's homes. I think we need to get it across to the people who come into the area and regarding tourism or tourists, etc., to respect where they are and treat it with respect as well.
I think
that came across quite a bit actually from several people in the meeting.
Yeah, I think if I could respond to that, I think that's a really valid point, and I think there's a couple of areas in which we can address that. One is it's something that we can, in terms of access and responsible recreation, I think it's something that does fit within the kind of access and life framework. So maybe that's something we can kick around again on our workshop of the 19th. But I think it also fits within the sustainable tourism strategy that we're working on at the moment. Again, the whole question of how we get information and education and advice to tourists, along with the age-old question of toilets, which we know is something that we need to address in the round. So thank you for raising that again.
Well, it's something I brought up. I know what I'm going to say now is an old one, but we had some friends over from Denmark and they decided to Panama. They turned around halfway up because so many dog food bars there. You know, if you've got an issue with a dog, don't take it. You know, dogs are overtaking in the area. Okay, there are places, pubs, etc., who are welcoming dogs. But I myself, 2 weeks ago, we were in town one Sunday, and my wife and I went into the Wellington. Well, it was like a kennel, to be perfectly frank. And I called the waitress and I said, "Excuse me, I want another place, please, because any problems?" I said, "Yeah, I didn't come to eat in a kennel." And I was on the black book, you know, on it. We've got to try and find a happy medium somewhere.
Well, not really matters for discussion at the planning committee, as I suggest, but I think that all points for us to discuss. We have a couple of forums, I think, coming up that will allow us to kick some of these things around. So point taken.
But the access forum is well worth attending because it is, you know, there's a lot of people from different walks of life, and you get in a broad outlook on it. And
yeah, so thank you for that endorsement, and I think perhaps it's worth us as a committee passing on our thanks to that forum because they are volunteers from the community who come forward and support that work. So if we could perhaps pass our thanks on to them for doing what they do, that would be appreciated. John, please. Sorry, yes, John, let me hand up.
Oh, thank you, Chair. On the local access forum minutes, my reflections here are not what's in the minute, but what's not in the minute. So if you forgive me. So I sit for my sins on the local access forum for Torfaen and Blaenau Gwent, and much of our deliberations are consumed by exploring things like barriers to disabled access on canal paths, to barriers involving problems with stop-proof gates that don't allow wheelchair access and so forth. When we talk about this on planning, on Sustainable Development Forum, but I note that on Local Access Forum, there seems to be, and this is not the first time, there's never any discussion about equality of access driving the debate in the Access Forum, and that omission concerns me, particularly in the context of Brecknock Access Group changing its focus. I've started to feel that disabled access to the countryside is slipping off the agenda in the park, and I'd like to have seen that being part of the discussion in LAF. I don't attend it. I'm not a delegate to LAF, so it's not. So that was a concern.
Yeah, so let me respond on that again, John. I think the question of disabled access are considered by that, but perhaps not as a standing agenda item. But again, let's bring this up on our workshop on the 19th. It's a very valid point to see where those kind of matters are discussed by us.
The other one, sorry, Chair, was I noticed that there was discussion in the minutes of the issues at Keepers Pond and access development there. And it'd be interesting to see what the latest development thinking is on that. I know it's a sensitive area for us, but in terms of when we had the members site visit, there was talk about extending the path from the lock, from the sluice gate at Keepers Pond to the trig point, and would like to know if that's been pushed forward. It would make a very good loop to come back to
regarding the Keepers Pond, Chair, it was brought up there, and it's been postponed to the next meeting as they failed to get there apparently. So they're looking really at the 6th of September.
Okay, so it's on the agenda, John, I think.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you for those points. So again, that report is just for noting, along with those useful discussions, which brings us on to enclosure 7, confidential item. Now, can I hand over to Sean to read us there?
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation is that under section 100A of the Local Government Act 72, the public excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the ground of the disclosure to them of present information as defined in paragraph 12, 13, 17, 18, part 4, schedule 12 of the Local Act, and there's a public interest in maintaining the exemption of ways of public interest in disclosing it.
So I have a proposer, John, and a seconder, Liz. Danny, if you could take us through the vote. I know that David Jones, I think, has left us now.
Mr. Julie Stephen,
Applied.
Councillor Handel Davis,
Obliged.
Dr. Liz Bickerton,
Obliged.
Councillor Edwin Roderick,
Right.
Councillor Hugh Williams,
Right.
Councillor Hunt,
Obliged.
Councillor Simon Howard,
Aye.
Councillor Peter James,
Obliged.
and yourself, Chair.
Obliged.
That's unanimous.
So thank you all very much to any members of the public who are watching us. We're going to stop the live streaming now so that we can move into private session. So if I could ask Jane to let us know when the streaming is closed, that would be great. Thank you.